Hi. In the previous video, we ordered our words. We've seen that the specific word order is a characteristic of an individual language. For instance, if we divide a sentence into a subject, a verb and an object, we can order those three things in 6 possible ways. There are 6 possible word orders. And we have seen that all of those word orders are actually attested in some language. I'm going to discuss word order more now with my students Marten and Inge.
So the first question that I had is, you said all word orders are actually attested in languages, but I was wondering if these word orders are divided equally among languages of the world.
All right. Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we don't really know because there's so many languages which have not been described yet. Mm-hmm. But from the languages we know, and I think we can say it is still some kind of representative sample, the answer seems to be clearly no. Mm. If we just take 2 out of these 6 orders, SVO and SOV, we have already covered 90% of the languages we know. If we take the third word order there, VSO, that covers another 8 or 9% even. So that means the other 3 word orders, together, they're about 1%. They're a very small minority. They're not all equal, no.
But why is it that some word orders are more frequent than others?
Yeah, why is that? Well, one thing which if we look at these 6 different orders, so look at them, and can you see something which is special about the first 3? SVO, SOV and VSO?
I don't know, if I look at the structure I would say that they all have S before O. So
yeah, well, you're laughing about it, but that's completely correct. That's exactly the answer I wanted to hear. So this is what distinguishes these first 3 from the last 3. It's the subject coming before the object. So apparently that's an order which languages like. Mm-hmm. And actually it seems to be something which really humans like. Linguists have been doing experiments quite recently where they try to make people gesture. So they did people who just use a spoken language, they didn't know any sign language. You can still ask them to imitate some kind of story, to tell a story by just making movements with your hands. So you show them a girl who's catching a fish. Okay, it didn't matter what the language was. So whether they were Japanese or Turkish or English or Italian, it didn't matter what the word order in their language was. They would all do the same thing in a sentence like this. They would first do the girl, I don't know how you do a girl, let's long hair or something like that, and then they would do the fish. Let's do it like that, and then they would do the catch. So, and always in this order. So the girl, fish, catch. So subject, object, verb. So even if their language would do something differently, they would do it. So that order seems to come natural. Mm-hmm. Now you might wonder, why is that? Right? So what makes this order come natural? And linguists are divided about this. There's, I think, 2 main hypotheses. One is that some important part of grammar is innate. Children are born with it. Children are born, in this case, with this preference for subjects to come before objects. The other linguists would say that there's other factors, there's other things in our brains, in our way of perceiving the world, which cause this. That we just tend to think first about who is doing the thing, which would be the subject, and then about what is affected by the particular action which is taken, which would be expressed by the object.
Okay, so either it's because it was innate or because of the logical order. But there are still sort of exceptions because there are languages which have the other less frequent basic word orders. So why are there languages that do not have these most frequent basic word orders?
Right, so why are there any languages at all which put an object before a subject, right? Yeah, that's because this is probably, whatever the factor is, it's probably not the only factor. There might be other factors which have worked in the history of this language, which might have been because, there was something funny about objects, such that these objects were better expressed at the beginning of the sentence. You like to have shorter words at the beginning of the sentence, more or something like that. And then that might have become part of the grammar in the course of time, and this might have given us some of these other word orders.
Okay.
So now, actually, what you say is that there are certain factors that may be very important, but then there may also have been all these other factors that may have played a role. So how does that work for linguistics as a science? Because there does not seem to be a certain law that says, okay, this is the way it is. There's only endless exceptions to everything.
Right. So is linguistics a real science?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Like physics.
Physics is,
Yeah.
because physics has real laws,
Yeah. Like gravity, for example. If I
Like-
take my pen, then it will fall always.
yes, actually, I mean, to some extent, no, always no, because if you put some kind of wire there and you attach it to the ceiling, it doesn't fall. Okay, so there are exceptions as well. If there's something else going on, it doesn't fall. The thing is with physics we can easily do in a lab. We can just isolate the important circumstances, so we can make sure that it's not attached to anything. With language, we cannot do that. Language is spoken by human beings. We cannot make sure that it's not attached to other things, that there's not always some kind of other factor which is playing a role. We cannot put language in the lab in that exact same way. So you have exceptions, but if you think about it, in physics you have exceptions as well. It's just that we understand more clearly why you would have those exceptions. In summary, if you're looking for a 100% law about word order, maybe you don't find it. But we find something which is very close to that. We find a tendency which seems to be very, very strong and which covers 99% or 98% of all languages we know. Subjects come before objects in almost all of those languages. And we have seen that linguists have various explanations for this, and maybe they don't completely agree about what the precise explanation is, but we do find something which comes as close to a law as we can in the study of human behavior and human language. Now, knowing this, in the next video we're going to look at the word order of the languages of our informants.